What kind of show roasts the very people signing its paychecks? Family Guy. This show's been body slamming industries for 20 plus years, so which of these poor little companies got hit the hardest? First up is the company that could have shut the whole show down. It's the pettiest of all. Family Guy airs on Fox, but that hasn't stopped them from dragging Fox News. And they're quite harsh and foxy lady. This is the one where Lois gets a job at Fox News. Before she even gets interviewed, Brian tells her not to do it. Why? Because Fox News is a biased network that reports lies. No lies detected in that statement. Well, Lois goes for the interview and reads well, but the second she tells them she just made up the news, they tell her she's got what it takes. I see what they did there. Anyway, work begins. Her first assignment is to do an investigation piece designed to out Michael Moore as gay. You've got to love quality reporting. Lois does, but in the process, she finds out that Rush Limbaugh is also involved. Her bosses say hell no, and immediately kill the story because now it's embarrassing for someone on their side. Finally, Lois realizes Brian was right. Family Guy made Fox a lying, scheming organization and made them air it. Brian even calls them hypocrites. Oh, and there's the Billy O'Reilly thing. Stewie does this bit while acting like a news anchor. The teleprompter's wrong, so he just starts losing his mind. It's so hilarious because it's a direct recreation of a real video that leaked of Billy O'Reilly. In it, the reporter was having a complete meltdown on set in 1993 during a taping of Inside Edition. He was yelling, "We'll do it live," over and over because the teleprompter was written in a way that confused him. But Family Guy wasn't done screwing Fox. Jump to Big Man on Hippocampus. This episode is mostly about Peter forgetting who he is, but right at the end of the first act, the episode just stops. What pops up is a plain, black screen with white text in the exact style of Adult Swim's late-night bumpers. You know, those little text cards they put between shows. And the text says something along the lines of, "Why are you watching this on Fox? Watch it on Adult Swim. We don't cut the jokes." Just unhinged! But the Fox budget cut joke in Lethal Weapons is my favorite. In this episode, the family literally jumps on each other, which is actually quite common in this show. Never mind that the theme song says, "It seems today, all you see, violence on TV." What's Peter's excuse this time? Well, he heaps the blame on the network. Lois tells him to be careful, but he adds, "What are they gonna do? Cut our budget?" And then immediately the animation quality drops. The frame rate goes down as well. Peter moves through the kitchen in this choppy way. Fox is slashing their budget in real time as a response to Peter talking trash about them. I love it! To add more seasoning to the bit, the show was actually canceled a few months after that episode aired. That was either a warning shot that the writers didn't take seriously, or they knew exactly what was coming and put it in anyway. Either way, the timing is insane, but the beef wasn't only on air. In August 2021, after Tucker Carlson had just aired a segment from Budapest to support Hungary's authoritarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whose government had just passed laws against the LGBTQ, McFarlane tweeted, "Tucker Carlson's latest opinion piece again makes me wish Family Guy was on any other network. Look, Fox, we both know this marriage isn't working anymore. The sex is only once a year, I don't get along with your mother, and, well, I've been having an affair with NBC." What was Fox Entertainment's response? Well, President Michael Thorne told Deadline that they expected Family Guy to remain part of their lineup for the time being, and that the show was still playing at the top of its game. Translation: we know he hates us, but we're keeping the show anyway because it makes us money. McFarlane later clarified that he dumps on Fox a lot, but I will say the whole time I was there, no one ever tried to censor the show politically. There's a very laissez-faire attitude that worked great for us. After Fox, Family Guy took on an industry people have been side-eyeing for years. I side-eye him too. Family Guy went after Big Pharma too. In fact, they did it twice in 2 episodes. The first one is Family Gay, and the setup is that Peter needs money because he bought a brain-damaged horse, and it destroyed a bunch of stuff. I mean, it's Peter, so of course he did. Anyway, the family's in debt, so he signs up for pharmaceutical drug trials. For a few bucks, he becomes their lab rat. They start injecting him with different genes to see what happens. He gets the squirrel gene, he starts acting like a squirrel. He gets the Seth Rogen gene, and he starts being as unintentionally funny as Seth Rogen. And then they give him the gay gene, and yep, Peter becomes gay. But the second bit might be the most cold-blooded thing the show's ever done: the old man and the big C. In this episode, Lois's dad, Carter, who's a billionaire, has a pharmaceutical company. Well, Brian and Stewie find out something wonderful. Carter's company has developed a cure for cancer. Whoa! But he's sitting on it. Ew! Well, okay, can you blame him? If you cure cancer, you lose all the revenue from treating cancer. Brian tries to confront Carter about it, but Carter doesn't even pretend to feel bad. That sounds like a direct accusation. There's this popular conspiracy theory that Big Pharma already knows how to cure cancer. They're just not telling anyone. This episode co-signs that theory. But at least they don't set out to ruin kids' lives like the next industry. I know what you're thinking. Tobacco's for adults. How did they set out to ruin kids' lives? Well, I'll get into it because this one right here is a classic. So, Peter's toy factory gets bought out by a cigarette company, El Dorado Cigarettes. The executives sit and decide that the best way to lobby Congress to stop the anti-smoking bill is to send someone just as dumb as the congressman. Who's dumb enough? After a very short search, they find Peter. But before they send him to Washington, they run a whole marketing campaign with Peter as El Dorado. Now, this is where they take a piss. They make an ad that's a direct parody of cigarette companies, especially Philip Morris, the makers of Marlboro and Virginia Slims, and R.J. Reynolds, the maker of Camel and Pall Mall. These companies were known for one thing: smoking, and one other thing: creating ads that convince children to smoke. Family Guy took all notes. At first glance, the campaign in this episode looks like a classic old-school cigarette ad. Peter's rugged and stoic, the masculine cowboy you'd recognize from the Marlboro Man, because, they're selling smoking as the symbol of masculinity. But there's a catch. The drawing style looks like a cartoon mascot. And not just any mascot, it looks exactly like the kind of cartoon figure used in ads like Joe Camel. Studies showed kids recognized this cartoon almost as easily as characters like Mickey Mouse, so they were targeting children. But then they also had the slogan, "You've come a long way, honey," which is a parody of the Virginia Slim slogan, "You've come a long way, baby." This one was used by Philip Morris to market cigarettes as a symbol of women's liberation. So now, in one single ad, you have a Marlboro Man-style masculine cowboy with the target being adult men, drawn like Joe Camel to target kids, and with a Virginia Slim-style slogan to target women. They packed 3 different real tobacco scandals into one joke. And then, okay, this is the part I love, there's a cutaway to where they show a 1950s kids TV show, like a Lassie-type show, and in the background of this wholesome family scene, a man keeps cutting in saying the word, "Smoke!" Then Peter actually gets to Congress. The senators immediately connect with him because they're all on the same low intellectual level. But when Stewie shows up in the back row coughing from a cigarette, Peter's brain begins to work for the first time in his life. He tells Congress to reject El Dorado's proposal, and Congress fines the company $100 million. Family Guy knew exactly what they were doing. Before the episode aired, the 1998 Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement had already been reached. In fact, Congress was trying hard to tighten tobacco advertising rules further. Were tobacco companies happy about this? Your guess is as good as mine. Next, Family Guy does something sneaky. This time, their target isn't the people selling the cigarettes, it's the people stopping it, or at least pretending to. I love this one. In Secondhand Spoke, Peter finds out his deaf co-worker Stella gets to take smoke breaks. Peter has never smoked a cigarette in his life, and no, he doesn't want a cigarette. What he wants is to take a break whenever. So, what does Smart Peter do? He starts smoking. Does Smart Peter smoke just a little bit? Nope, he smokes so much, he gets addicted. In a few days, he's smoking everywhere, at the dinner table, during conversations with Lois, everywhere. His face even begins to look like an old leather wallet. Well, a man named Mr. Stone, an anti-smoking campaign advertising executive, meets him. He wants Peter to be the face of his campaign. I mean, Peter is perfect. He looks horrifying. He's a living advertisement for why you shouldn't smoke. But the irony is, Peter has to keep smoking to maintain this appearance. So, Peter becomes the message and the disease at the same time. Eventually, he quits and is ready to go back to normal, but Lois says, Peter, that's not how this works. The damage you've done is irreversible. Brian agrees and says as rough as Peter looks on the outside, his heart and lungs are probably in even worse shape. But Peter's completely unbothered. He even breaks the fourth wall by suggesting someone cut to a shot outside of the house with some music playing because, hey, that usually works. No, it doesn't. The scene cuts to the outside of the house, music plays, and then cuts back inside. Peter still looks terrible.
Fuck.
Family Guy destroyed tobacco companies here. Most of them fund anti-smoking initiatives while still selling cigarettes. Next, Family Guy said, let's pick a fight with the most beloved animated show of all time. You definitely know this one. This was comedic genius. The Griffins end up in Springfield, and at first, it's just a fun mashup. Peter and Homer hang out, Stewie and Bart mess around, but then Moe the bartender from The Simpsons looks at Peter's beer, Pawtucket Patriot Ale, and says it's just Duff beer with the same taste and a different label. Homer takes it to court immediately. For years, people accused Family Guy of being a ripoff of The Simpsons. Fat, stupid dad, 3 kids, smart wife, talking dog, animated sitcom. Yeah, I see their point. Seth MacFarlane had been either defending his creation or ignoring that criticism for over a decade. So now it's time to fight it out in court, with Fred Flintstone as the judge. Peter argues that Pawtucket Patriot Ale may have been inspired by Duff, but it goes in a different direction than the other beer. Meaning, yeah, I copied you, but I added my own creative twist. Well, Peter loses, and the Pawtucket Brewery is ordered to shut down. Also, and this is a detail I love, Seth MacFarlane and Matt Groening, the actual creators of both shows, are in court too, at the back of the courtroom. Now for a marketing wormhole that swallows hundreds of businesses. In Hell Comes to Quahog, Meg wants a car like every normal teen in America. She saves up her money for one, and Peter takes her to the dealership. Bad move, because while they're there, a swindling salesman convinces Peter to buy a military tank. I mean, that's just Peter being Peter. Then Joe impounds it after Peter runs him over while teaching Meg to drive it. Still Peter being Peter. So now Meg has no car, no money, and a father who just flattened a police officer. Perfect teenage life in America. She has no choice but to get a job at, of all places, Superstore USA. This store is a brand new megastore that just opened in Quahog. The show makes absolutely no effort to disguise that this store is a parody of Walmart. The name, the layout, the logo smileys, all of which is Walmart. Well, because it's bigger and cheaper than everything else in Quahog, the town's entire small business district begins to die. Cleveland's deli shuts down, Mort Goldman loses his pharmacy, even Chris loses his paper route because Superstore USA has been contracted to deliver newspapers. Then, the heat wave arrives, but since Superstore USA is hoarding Quahog's electricity to power its air conditioning and refrigeration, the town starts getting blackouts in the middle of a heat wave. The store is an industrial-grade cold, but the temperatures everywhere else are hotter than my imaginary girlfriend. The store also has assault rifles just like Walmart.
Tell me where I can find assault rifles.
Aisle 6.
Now, did they deserve that? Yes! Research published in the Journal of Urban Economics and other outlets showed that once Walmart enters the markets, small retail employment drops. Energy consumption also becomes a concern in some regions. Oh, but the end of the episode is hilarious. You know who prospers in the whole disaster? A man who makes tumbleweeds. Once Superstore USA makes the entire downtown district broke, the streets go empty, and suddenly his tumbleweeds have a market. He runs outside screaming,
Y'all laughed at me! Y'all laughed at me! Well, who's laughing now?
now that's funny. If Walmart crushes dreams, what does Hollywood do? This is one of my favorite episodes of all time. It all begins when Brian moves to Los Angeles to live with his cousin Jasper and pursue his dream of becoming a serious screenwriter. Unfortunately, nobody buys his scripts, so his cousin does the noble thing and connects him with an independent film producer. This producer immediately offers him a directing job. Brian is so excited, he says yes before asking what kind of films they make. My friends, don't try this at home. Of course, when Brian goes on set, he finds out he's directing an adult film. But Brian has that dog in him. He doesn't quit. He is, in fact, good at it. He becomes such a successful adult film director and produces titles like You've Got Male Genitalia, Shaving Private Ryan, and I think we can stop the list right there. He even receives a Woody Award nomination for Best Director. This is the adult film industry's equivalent of the Oscars. I mean, it's obvious from the name, isn't it? But will you look at that? Brian Griffin, martini-drinking, serious novelist Brian Griffin, is nominated for a Woody. Hollywood will not only crush your dreams, they'll offer you a sleazy one and force you to celebrate it. I mean, if everything else fails, there's always porn. What's more, the adult film industry has agents, distributors, award ceremonies, directors, budgets, exactly like mainstream Hollywood. Family Guy points out that they're basically the same. Anyway, the Griffins come to visit, and Brian tries to keep them away from the set because he feels ashamed. He fails, though. They find out, and get this, they don't care. This episode throws puns at you every minute. Even the guest cast are real icons of adult films. Ron Jeremy and Jenna Jameson appear as themselves. Ray Liotta plays Zach, Brian's contact. Joan Rivers appears on the red carpet to interview Brian. John Williams is nominated with Walter Murphy and Ron Jones for Best Musical Score in an X-rated film. Don't ask me how I know these names. Anyway, the next one is everyone's favorite villain, the money-making machine everyone hates but wants to milk. Brian found a way to milk it too in this episode, but first, he pulls a Peter and crashes into their housekeeper Consuela's car. He pulls a Peter again by having no insurance. So yeah, he's in deep shit. But then, hello, he discovers Stewie's been purchasing every single coin-operated pony ride outside grocery stores across Quahog. How? Through stock investments. Stewie then agrees to teach Brian to invest, but in exchange, he wants the broke dog to teach him Gymkata, a real 1985 martial arts. Stewie's a good teacher, Brian takes 100 and watches it turn into 2,000 overnight. Impressive. They get super rich, they even take a submarine 20,000 feet down to pants James Cameron while he's excavating the Titanic. You know, that's what eccentric rich guys do. Then, Brian wants to invest in a Korean company that makes protein shakes. Stewie's suspicious, so they visit the company's warehouse. Well, he was right to be suspicious. The key ingredient in the protein shakes is dogs. The warehouse is full of cages of sad dogs being processed into liquid. Stewie is immediately out, but guess who isn't? The dog, Brian! How ironic. Brian's a dog who's just been shown that a company is liquidating dogs for profit, and he still wants to invest because the margins are good. The protein shake company captures Brian and dumps him in a cage with the other dogs. Now he's an investment in his own portfolio. Be careful what you wish for. Stewie uses Gymkata, the thing Brian taught him, to break into the facility and rescue Brian. This episode didn't only attack Wall Street, it also attacked the personality type that Wall Street creates. They see so much money that their ethics begin to fall apart like a sandcastle. Not like Brian ever had strong ethics to begin with. So, who got hit the hardest? Definitely Fox News. That was brutal. They called them hypocrites, mocked their reporters, and even advertised their rivals on their own dime. They didn't need to do all that. If you think somebody else got hit the hardest, comment down below. And if this is the kind of thing you like, check out this video on the companies that were totally wrecked by South Park.